Kia ora e te iwi and welcome to The Chew.
The Chew.
Where we get to chew the fat off random kaupapa. Anei ahu ko taika māua ko Corey.
Kia ora.
Coming at you from the official Chew studios in Arrowtown.
Ka muri wai Arrowtown.
And today e te iwi, we get to chew the fat off The Slap.
The Slap.
You got it e te iwi. Will Smith giving Chris Rock a big
The Slap.
across,
The Slap heard around the world.
across the kānohi.
Ah.
So, e hika hia hao whakaaro, what are your thoughts about it?
Well, so the first thing I thought when I saw it, it was a setup. It just kind of looked, I don't know, the way that he swung, it sort of looked like it was overemphasized. It's not the kind of thing like, I don't know. Me personally, I don't think people put their body into a slap that off like that. They'd walk up and just go, psh. They wouldn't like turn their whole body around. But yeah, and now I don't think it was a setup, just because of all the shit that's happened afterwards, and you know, Will Smith crying and stuff as well. So I'm interested in knowing, bro, whose side you're on with that whole thing. We haven't actually talked about this, whānau. We made a point of not showing our hands as to which side of the fence we're on. So what we're about to say to each other is the first time we've heard each other's opinion on it. Yeah, crack up.
So yeah, obviously, you know, we don't condone violence of any form or any sort. However,
I feel a butt coming on, bro.
however, look, if anyone mocked anyone that I loved that had a medical condition or in general, they'd be getting more than a slap, to be honest. You know, what surprised me is Will Smith gave him a slap rather than, you know, most guys would start off with, you know, getting in your face, maybe saying a few words, a shove. A shove's usually initiated when there's any... Yeah, the wrangle around, you know. That's the most common thing to do between two males rather than a big psh.
Yeah.
Understandable for a lot of wahine to give a backhand or a front hand, or, you know, for a auntie or nanny, the gentle, potentially. So, yeah, that's my initial thoughts, I suppose. And we'll dig a little bit deeper into that later on.
Yeah.
But that's my stance. Obviously, Chris Rock's a comedian. That's understandable, but... You know, I've always thought a lot of the comedians at a lot of these events have really been pushing that line a little bit further each time. And, you know, that comes with repercussions. So, you know, if you're going to...
Oh, you think it should have repercussions?
Yeah, like, I think there should be definitely a ceiling on how far they can go at maybe some of these events. If you're doing like the roast of Will Smith or, you know, Jada Pinkett Smith, then, you know, there's definitely no ceiling on those. It's
I can't see any roast of either of those two anytime in the future.
I seen the roast of Justin Bieber, and that was pretty brutal. You know, they were all in on it, not only with him but also the others that were on there. So yeah, if you're gonna say some things, then, you know, you have to be aware of the repercussions, and most of the time it's just fun banter, but, you know, you might hit a nerve with some people depending on what situation they're in at that time. And yeah, Chris Rock felt the repercussions of the front end of Will Smith's hand.
Well, I have to disagree 100%. 100%.
Cool.
Yeah, I think crossing the line to violence is the biggest line to cross. That's to me is by far the main line that was crossed. As soon as you resort to violence, any argument or any justification you had, as far as I'm concerned, has gone out the window. It means you have no self-control. You've not considered any other sort of part of that of the decision made by the person who said what they said, and you've just taken it upon yourself to dish out your own form of justice, which to me it's a bit it's a complicated issue, right? I'm not saying I'm right. This is just an opinion. It's just for people that are trying to shed that angry black man image. This doesn't help.
Yeah,
it reinforces that you got to be careful what you say around a black guy because he might come up and punch you. You know, so terrible precedent. I'm not surprised at your opinion because, to my biggest disappointment, bro, Māori are the ones that are quite happy with what happened. And I'm just shocked that our people have that attitude given how given the stereotype that we have. Well, it's not even a stereotype. It's the profiling that we go through as Māori men, that we're violent, that we're wife beaters, that we have no self-control, and maybe there's an element of truth to that if we think that what Will Smith did was right. I don't know. I get it. These people say hurtful things, but I'm always surprised that people don't realise that words don't really have any meaning unless you give them meaning. You know. So, for example, if someone said, "My mum was like a whore that all the sailors took turns with," it wouldn't bother me because I know that's actually wrong. Like she isn't, and so people would only say that purely to try and get a rise out of you. So, yeah, bro, it's a tricky conversation, this one.
Yeah, that's actually gone quite deep. I suppose my initial thoughts have been quite surface level on it. But yeah, now you sort of point that out. Yeah, I can see myself sort of swaying over a wee bit. But the question I would say, and like I said, I'm not condoning those actions at all, is if he'd said that not on that stage, but let's say out in the street, yeah, would Will Smith have reacted the same or differently potentially? I'm not sure. Like,
I suspect he would have, bro.
Does the event give rise to, people condoning or not condoning those actions more so than if it wasn't in front of the camera?
Hard to say. I think part of his justification is probably because it was in such a global public forum that he maybe would have looked weak if he didn't do something to stick up for his wife. I've heard all the justifications, and it's pretty much along the lines of what you're saying. It's that someone that you care about and love has been insulted. Which, by the way, I don't buy into that for this. Like, saying that she had a short haircut, making a joke because her hair was short. We're all assuming that Chris Rock knew that she had alopecia, is it?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
So, I mean, if he did know she had alopecia, maybe that gives it a little bit more weight to the slapping. Not that I agree with the slapping at all, but that's what I meant when I said that there was nothing really considered about Chris Rock's side. It's like, come on, Whānau, he's a comedian. Of course he's going to roast you. So and I hear some funny things come out, right? It's like, again, if Mike Tyson was the guy standing there and said the joke, do you honestly believe Will Smith would have gone up there and slapped Mike Tyson? No, he's going to pick on the little skinny comedian because he's an easy target.
And I'll tell you what, on a lighter note, Will Smith's lucky that Chris Rock, just took it. Yeah. And, continued. I didn't see what happened further on after it, whether, it stopped him in his tracks, whether it put him off his game. Did it?
It did.
But man, imagine if Chris Rock did a big front kick, or he just turned that dial up another couple of notches and started going even harder. And he definitely could have, like he's a professional comedian. He could have gone deeper and harder at her, at Will Smith. But, obviously he knew he hit a hard note with Will and he toned it down. But man, that was
a big disappointment for me. I was hoping he would have went even handier at him, eh?
Yeah, more retaliation.
Yeah, because it's just like, I got him. Mm-hmm. I've got a rise out of him. Let's poke him a little bit harder. Mm. But,
And also, that they've been saying at the Oscars that he should give the award back, etc. I'm not sure if that's official, but I've just read some of that in the media. And my take on that is, I'm sure Will Smith's probably done way worse stuff than that, to be honest. But that's not being accounted for in terms of whether he should give that Oscar back or not. It's just based on that one act. Like, he's probably done some real shady stuff. I'm not sure. I'm just assuming here, and this is my own opinion. But because of that action, that public action, under, their, what would you call it, their roof in that event, he's been asked to potentially return it, or there could be repercussions for him to return that Oscar.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really bothered about the Oscar itself. I'm not a big fan of the Oscars anyway, so
neither.
It doesn't bother me what happens with the Oscar. But I'm really disappointed that he hasn't had any real accountability at all. I mean, taking his Oscar off him, to me, is like a whoop-de-doo. Mm. But, there's so many other hypotheticals that it would have been interesting to see what would have happened, right? If it was a different person that went up and slapped Chris Rock, if it was Jada that went up and slapped Chris Rock, if it was all these other people, if all these other things that happened, how would we have reacted in that situation?
Yeah.
So
how could the universe have changed, depending on the situation being slightly different?
Yeah, so it's real weird. I'm just, my biggest disappointment is that I thought as a society we're better than allowing violence to go unpunished. Mm-hmm. Such simple examples of violence. So like you and I have probably grown up around a lot of violence, maybe not directly, but we would have seen a lot.
Yep.
It took me a lot to get that out of my system. I wasn't a violent person, but I was always around violence and I saw it all the time. And so when I came through the Air Force, I just wanted to punch anyone who did something wrong to me, and I would get into so much trouble just because that's how things were sorted out back home.
Yeah.
So eventually I met a couple of friends. Big shout out to my bro Matt.
Kia ora, Matt.
Who took me under their wing and basically said, bro, you need to cut that angry Māori shit out. Like, you just look like an idiot who's just firing off at everyone for any little insulting thing that you see. So, I had some people that put me back on the right track and said, man, this isn't the right way to act. It never is. And so now that I reflect on this, I see these elements or people who think that it's fine to behave like that and say, well, it's justified because he said some nasty stuff about her medical condition. And like, don't get it twisted, whānau. We make fun of each other's medical conditions all the time. Like the amount of gout fucking jokes that are out there for Māori, and we all laugh about it, but don't you dare talk about the alopecia. It's like, what? There's just so much hypocrisy that I see,
it's the number one go-to in, mocking family is the gout,
The gout.
Soon as someone says, and look, I'm doing it right now, as soon as someone says, oh, I've got the gout, you're like, oh!
Yeah, you just sort of start laughing, right?
Put those stabs in there.
Yeah.
Oh, don't eat that mutton bird, you'll get the gout again. Yeah. Yep.
But, there's just an example. There's, like, a terminal illness, for me, that would ramp things up a little bit. I'm like, ooh, she's terminal illness, making fun of somebody's terminal illness. I'm like, I'm still not a supporter of violence, but part of me thinks that, the red rag to a bull thing in that case, I could understand, not to excuse it, but I could definitely understand someone losing it over that.
Losing the plot.
But just making fun of somebody's medical state.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, God, that means someone should have walked on stage and slapped Donald Trump for making fun of all the people he's made fun of. He made fun of handicapped people. Oh. It's like, what? So now there you go, Will, get up there and slap Donald Trump in the face and see how you go. Like...
He probably wants to.
It's just so backwards in that country, I'll tell you. Because, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the guy, Kyle Rittenhouse.
Kyle.
Yeah, so he's the kid that took an AK-47 and ran into the middle of a Black Lives Matter Lives Matter protest, yeah. And he shot 2 people dead because he said that they were looting and they turned around to attack him. One guy kicked him, so he shot him dead with his AK-47. So it's like, right, and he got away with it. This is the lunacy of America, because he was protecting himself. It's that whole, you're allowed to protect yourself against someone who's trying to hurt you by literally killing them.
Holy moly!
So it's I'm like dumbfounded with the sort of the violent mindset that they have over there in America and how they just let people do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the system that they have to protect those actions, right? Yeah, which is obviously a broken system,
Yeah, but, all this violence is just, it's out of hand over there.
Well, you look at the raid they did on the White House,
Yeah.
over politics. It's like, I know people in New Zealand are pretty hearty about, the parties they support in politics, but, man, like they had people breaking in there, talking about, knocking people off in the White House. That's...
I know.
Yeah, that's next level. Yeah.
But
that's beyond next level, to be honest.
Yeah. So it's... Anyway, we're sort of getting very political now. So I'm gonna raise another point, bro, about this whole Will Smith thing.
Yeah,
and I'm interested to know if you know about any of it. So a lot of people are talking about Will Smith's mental state.
Oh, okay.
And do you know what that story's about, bro?
Nah, no, I don't. No.
Yeah, so his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith. So I'm not sure how long ago, maybe a year or 2 ago. Mm-hmm. She had like a podcast, bro.
Okay, yep.
Yeah, and she brought Will up to the table. It's called the Red Table or something.
Okay, yep.
And they have a bit of a conversation, and she proceeded to sort of talk about how she cheated on him.
Oh.
But it was like she was entitled to cheat on him because she was lonely or something, or she needed to feel valued or something like that. So I guess technically it's not cheating, because apparently I'm not exactly sure of the full story, but I think there was something consensual about the whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so she slept with a friend of her son's. So coming full circle to this slap, there's a lot of the narrative that's out there is that
there's a lot of contributing factors below the surface.
It's that Will's feeling like emasculated because of what's happened to him with his wife's cheating, so he kind of felt the need to go up there and act like a big man. So that's an interesting narrative, man. It's like I remember that whole conversation because I remember when it happened, I watched that podcast when she explained that whole thing, and she called it an entanglement.
Yeah,
that was a technical word for cheating with somebody else.
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want, right? But it's still, cheating.
But he basically just sat there and copped it all. You know, he tried to smile it off, laugh it off, but you could tell the dude was breaking, man, just by the look in his eye. So, but they're still together. Like, they're back together again because this young kid dumped her.
Yep.
So, he dumped...
Unsurprisingly.
He dumped her because he got what he needed out of it.
Yeah.
And so her and Will Smith are back together now. So a lot of people are saying that, you know, she's got him sort of all screwed up in the head, and this is part of kind of him acting out in some way.
He got to taste the forbidden fruit, lured in by the snake.
So so his wife Jada Pinkett Smith's copping quite a bit of flack as well. So they're all copping flack, man. Chris Rock included. Chris Rock hasn't said anything, has he?
I don't think so. All I've heard, and I haven't been following it very closely, Tiwi, was that he's not laying any charges, you know, and he probably understands, you know, as a comedian, you know, he's probably had these sorts of things maybe not physically occur in the past, so, you know, good on him for being the bigger man, and just go, look, it is what it is. I'll take it on the chin.
Yeah, good on him. Yeah, I think he did what he had to do in the moment. You know, I'm not a fan of him charging either. Although I wouldn't have been upset if he'd charged him either.
Did it rattle him? Like, obviously the slap would have, but then for him to continue his performance, was he the MC?
Yeah, he was the MC, bro.
Did he continue the performance pretty sweet after that, or was he rattled?
He was rattled for one part not long after when he was introducing Best Documentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't getting his words out properly. He's like, oh, now we're going to show a documentary. We're given the award for the best doc. Just show us the nominees, you know. So you could tell he was a little bit. He was a little bit flustered.
Yeah, like what was going on right there? You know, there was that mental block there.
Yeah, his mind was obviously thinking about other stuff, and probably thinking of what he should have done, you know, or what he should have said. Yeah. So,
but I understand your perspective now. You've given it quite a deeper context and sort of almost circled it back to our people and us. So
everything that relates to ethnicities showing violence, I always feel that this is the stuff that suffers. It's all the hard work that people put in to try and portray an image that we aren't the violent people. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Yeah.
Or 1 step forward, 2 steps back.
Yeah. So, you know, all the rednecks are out there going, you see black guys, all they want to do is fucking punch people. They're violent. They can't help themselves. And it's like, you know, if one of the top dogs in Hollywood can't even control himself. He's not a young guy, man. He's not young by any stretch. He should know better, you know. Like, again, I'm not going to make excuses, but I would expect a young guy to behave like that. You know, someone in their 20s, because we probably would have behaved like that, bro, in our 20s. You know. But shit, I'm a grizzly old fool now, and there's no way I'd bother doing that anymore.
Yeah, I'd probably pull a lat trying to get the hand back to give him a slap, you know, be like, oh, doctor, I was going to give him a hug.
Yeah. But
yeah, and I suppose other options, you know, could have just got up and walked out too, you know, which probably would have made a bigger statement.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, just said, you know, you crossed the line. You crossed the line, mate, and you wouldn't have said, mate. You've crossed the line and we're leaving. You know, that would have been a bigger message. I just think only young people think there's any glory in violent outcomes. You know, when you're older and a bit more mature, you just... Do we honestly still think violence is the easiest way to solve something?
You're like a wise old owl,
it's just like, you just sit back and go... just think of all the shit that it creates afterwards, you know? Just think of all the paperwork you have to deal with after that, when it's just so much easier to walk away. But, you know, there's egos involved. I get it.
Yeah.
When I was young, I could never back down. My ego told me never to back down. I could never, ever once think of turning my back and walking away. because it's like, no, he's beaten me. Fuck that.
Mm.
Now, well, yeah, because I get to live another day, live another day without drama.
And potentially I don't need to spend a night in hospital.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Rather than jail, because I'd probably be in the hospital bed rather than the cell, to be honest. What did you say?
Oh, that's totally me, bro. It's probably a reason why I don't see the point in violence, because, well, I wouldn't win any fight, even with Chris Rock.
So there's one thing I seen actually on YouTube about, and I'm not sure whether it was staged or not, but some two guys were going at it, and this old boy that was on the subway in the corner just rocks over and downtrails one of them, and immediately they just stopped fighting. And I was like, well, there's the answer, just downtrail the other person, and then he's there in all his glory being shamed out, and then it just pretty much stopped. So, so we don't condone downtrailing people either. But hey, if you're going to resort to punching someone in the face, then maybe the downtrail, maybe not the undies, but just the pants, could be a...
I'm cool with downtrail, man. in any occasion. That's funny, But, yeah, I mean, I'm just disappointed, man, because now anybody really has a justification to go up and slap and slap any comedian that they don't like their jokes about, because everyone gets butthurt real easy from words. It's real weird. Oh, I don't know, man. It's just it's a complicated issue, bro. I'm not going to say that my viewpoint's the right one. Everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah,
Everyone's
absolutely.
entitled to their to what they think is right or wrong.
Yep.
And
to some degree, I agree with you. But yeah, I'd hate to say it, unfortunately, that in that instance, if it was to my missus, that I would be able to maybe fully control my emotions to do that. So, look, it's a different situation. They're at the Oscars, they're on stage. If it was in a pub and some old boy was doing that, 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh, they're just old fools drunk, let's get out of here. But, under different situations, under different stresses, under different influences, which could be beer, I can't 100% say that I would walk away 100% of the time. So, yeah. So that's probably a small piece where we get to agree to disagree.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, we agree to disagree about something, and I'm cool with that. Mm-hmm. I don't get all butthurt because people don't agree with me. Yeah.
And that's a great thing about opinions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got one.
Have you ever been slapped in the face?
By a man or a woman?
Oh, either or.
I've been slapped by a woman, yeah.
Which bar was it at? And whose bum did you pinch?
But I've been slapped a few times, actually. Yeah. Yeah, I got slapped because I got cheeky to someone, a chick. Guys don't slap you, they punch you normally.
Yeah, they do that roughly shove thing.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. You both do it to each other, eh? You both go like this. But yeah, no. So my attitude towards what happened is a lot about my personal experience too. So I've always been a bit of a mouthy guy. So I used to back a lot of fellas into corners just with talk, and then they would lash out, and then I'd be like, yes, won the argument, because when you throw the first punch, it means you lost the argument, kind of thing, right?
You mean you were like, yes, I won the argument, yes.
Yes, I won the argument.
I got you, punk.
Yeah, so I have been a bit of a mouthy kind of person anyway. So I guess my bias is more towards, you can get cheeky and nothing really justifies getting violent. Mm-hmm. But that's just a personal thing for me. Yeah,
especially in today's day and age, or today's generation where Violence definitely isn't condoned, and I'm not saying it was in previous generations, but
it was kind of accepted though.
Yeah,
it was a different time then, eh?
Yeah. And that's probably the better term. It was accepted. It was a little bit more the norm compared to, where we've come from to today. So, and there's a lot of guidance, support, information, culture change, generational change about how to deal with words, emotions, and anger, well-being, all of those sorts of things. So, we're probably in a lucky time to have that around us.
Confusing time for us, bro, because we were brought up in that other era.
Yep.
Where, punch first, ask questions later was the norm.
Yeah. And, one day when we get the old man to be interviewed on the Chew, he's got some pretty awesome not awesome stories, but he's got some pretty dark stories about, violence and, growing up the river and how it was quite common to see it, especially in the pubs,
Of course.
People go to the pubs and, just fights non-stop all the time, abuse, verbal, physical abuse. So, that's probably another podcast to talk about maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to, a lot of people that know us down here, bro, they would never associate us with that kind of world. But don't get it twisted, whānau. Both the bro and I come from that background. And, so we're very familiar with all of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And, it is what it is. I'm not going to say it should never have happened because it was the time. It was the way people behaved at the time. It was accepted. It was just a different time.
Yeah, big drinking culture.
Yeah.
Survival culture, you know. Jobs and money were pretty tight too.
Yep.
Around that era. So, people just did what they had to do. And like we said, we don't condone it, but it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Drinking and driving. That was regular, man. The amount of times I'd be off my face drunk and I'd just jump in the car and drive home.
Yeah.
It was so regular to do that kind of stuff.
Well, taxi, what was a taxi in the, 80s and 90s, What's that thing?
Yeah. I can't remember. I don't ever remember going in a taxi until I was like in my mid-20s sometime. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, drink driving was the norm,
Yeah.
And probably in some parts of Aotearoa, I'm not saying it is, but, it's probably still common.
Yeah.
In some of those backcountry areas where they don't have luxuries of taxis or courtesy vans, etc.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Whoosh. Wow, that was a pretty heavy topic, bro.
Yeah, it actually sort of went a little bit more serious than I expected. You had a pretty good deep whakaaro on it, which was a good perspective, to be honest, because I've only sort of seen it, had a really rough think about it, and that was pretty much it. So
no, well, I've just seen a lot of stuff on TikTok of all places, and the biggest disappointment for me were the biggest supporters of what happened were Māori and black people in America. I noticed so many black people came out in support of Will Smith, which, I mean, I get it. You're black, you got to follow along. But if I take the whole race thing out of it, I just see a guy reacting to words with violence, and
he's probably quite a what would you call it, high figure, or within the black community over there. He's a successful actor.
Yeah.
He's done some really good movies. He's probably given a lot back to the community, so he's probably seen as, a real head figure for a lot of black people to try and aspire to. And
yeah, I get that. And, like, everyone makes mistakes. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that as, like, if that's the... If that's the justification, everyone makes mistakes, I'm actually cool with that. Like I can get behind that excuse because it is something we all make mistakes from, and then we just move on and try and be better for the next time. But if it's, I just can't get behind the whole, he said something offensive about my wife. It's like, really? Okay. Yeah. So... I don't know.
So any other closing thoughts, E Hika?
One closing thought, bro, about pretty disgusted about Hollywood in general. Because these guys, we've had to listen to them for years and decades, going on about Trump, going on about all the bad people in the world, you know, whoever the latest Republican bloody nominee or the latest Republican president is. Hollywood just goes on and on about how bad they are and what a nasty person they are and this, that, and the next thing. But they turn and hug this guy after what he did. You know, like, that hypocrisy pisses me off too, you know. So Hollywood, just pipe down. Just make your movies and keep your mouth shut about politics, would you? Gee.
And probably on a bit of a side note, and sorry to steal your last words, Thunder, was Jane Campion, you know, Kiwi, who got an award there, got an Oscar. So, you know, that's a huge milestone for New Zealanders in general. So, you know, congrats to you, Jane, you know, for putting Aotearoa up on that po there over there in Hollywood.
Well done. And all that bad shit that I don't know, people try to say something about the Williams sisters and her. Didn't work out. She got the Oscar. Yeah, she's representing for the Kiwis and New Zealanders. And I don't care if Central Otago isn't the proper west of America. Couldn't care less. It was an awesome movie. You seen the movie, bro?
Cool.
Ah, good movie. It's a bit slow in places, but you know, if you just keep hanging in there with it, it's a pretty cool story.
Yep, I'll definitely put it on the list because, you know, we've got a Kiwi in behind it, so it's definitely going on.
Yeah, and it really does just look like a farm in New Zealand, eh? Like I was watching it and going, ooh, this is supposed to be like the Wild West of America. I'm like, man, this looks like any other farm in like Central Otago.
Yeah, that looks like the back of Omako, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's all we got time for on this podcast, Set to Iwi, but would really like to hear your thoughts, whether, you know, that's on Corey's opinion or my opinion, or whether you've got your own, to be honest.
Were you team Chris Rock or team Will Smith? Let us know, whānau.
And, you know, tell all your mates about the Chew, get them to watch a few of our podcasts, subscribe, hit us a like, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Mā te wā.
Mā te wā.